looking out onto my eyelashes in an agony of delightful anticipation.
Listen to them, the children of the night. What music they make.
From the D&E Studios, welcome to the Dracula Podcast. I am your host, Lawrence Burgess, or LV for short. Thank you to my producer, Adam Stover, Rob, and Martha of Southgate Media, and most of all, you for listening. We aim to bring you thoughtful, stimulating media, reviewing the films, books, music, and plays that make Stoker's creation so beloved, the criticism to inform your purchasing decisions, interesting guests, and the needs of our communities. Please send us your questions and comments on Facebook at the Dracula Podcast. There you can find the ye old application to play directly into your browser. Amazing. You can also find us on Facebook.com/Dracula Audio, Dracula Audio no spaces on Twitter, or at the inbox at audio.dracula@gmail.com. Once again, that's Facebook.com and Twitter, Dracula Audio no spaces, and also audio.dracula@gmail.com. We will do our best to respond to queries by direct response or on our show. And we've talked about this all through our Season 1 review of Penny Dreadful. But we're proud again. This podcast is brought to you by the Foxborough in Charleston, West Virginia. They are the industry leader in scoring, multi-track audio recording, mixing, mastering, production, and graphic design. Greg Hunt and his talented band of friends just completed work on Boots. It was a wonderful ballet, and Greg scored the thing. Absolutely amazing work. For queries, please send correspondence to 1007 Bigley Avenue, Suite 319, Charleston, West Virginia 25302. Once again, that's the Foxborough, 1007 Bigley Avenue, Suite 319, Charleston, West Virginia 25302. Not only is Greg Hunt a personal friend, but he's also brilliant in what he does, and he comes up with creative solutions for your post-production needs. We are cracking the second season of Penny Dreadful. My sincerest appreciation goes out to all of you for listening and joining in. We hope you took a chance to listen to our previous episodes. If not, check out the Southgate Media homepage at southgatemediagroup.com and dip into our archive. And we are everywhere. We are at iTunes, we're at Libsyn, we're at Stitcher. We're the sexiest podcast on the internet, and it's only getting better. And as stated before, hallelujah, ring those bells. The second season is upon us. The first episode of the second season of Penny Dreadful premiered on May 3rd at 10 p.m. on Showtime. Penny Dreadful is back with a vengeance. The first episode of the second season, entitled Fresh Hell. It was written by John Logan and directed by James Hawes. No sexy dramatic readings this time. You've been caught up with Penny Dreadful, and now you can view this episode online for free at YouTube via the official Penny Dreadful channel. How long will it remain up? Who knows? But right now, take advantage while you can. This is great television and even better craftsmanship. And when it comes along, consume it. And you guys are smart enough to do so. And thank you once again for blowing up our inbox. We've had a lot of positive responses. John Johnson came on. We cracked the entire Hammer horror series, which started off great and then went totally to poop. So, by popular demand, we are going to bring him back so we can crack another significant piece, not only in Dracula film history, but also the history of horror as well. John's a dear, dear friend of mine. We're in the middle of multiple projects, and he is best known in my heart for his sublime and perfect performance as Abraham Van Helsing and Mr. Swales on Dracula the audio drama. And by the way, folks, that's getting released a bit sooner than what we thought. A lot of surprises in store, and I've got a little preview to send your way right now.
Well, it's nice to be able to roll into the studio and just do the work, because that's one of the appealing aspects of doing this project is that there's no video part of it, and usually we work in film, but that is one of those things where there's a lot more to keep track of and take care of, and we can roll in here in flip-flops and shorts and just work in the studio and get the work done because it won't show. So it makes it...
Or in underwear.
Yeah, if you want to, well, don't tell them. He can go from being very quiet to all of a sudden being very forceful, which I think Van Helsing has those kind of dramatic lines. He's really the Barker, for lack of a better term, where, he has, I think that most of the other characters are a bit more reserved, just in general. So, but Van Helsing has that thing about him where he goes from like tender and fatherly, and all of a sudden it's like, here's the vampire killer, later on in the book. So,
Right.
John, it's just a really hard accent as well, in a very particular accent.
Yeah.
I mean, I really want to commend everybody for being able to do accents, because that is, a lot of people would have loved to have been in this and told me personally, it's like, that's great, I want to be a part of it. But they couldn't, and even good actors, but they couldn't do the accent. The accent's really difficult. Any accent, other than your normal tone of voice and your normal speech patterns, your word choices and how you pronounce something, it's really difficult. So, I'm really happy that we had who we had in the cast, because they were able to handle those challenges, and oftentimes do multiple accents and voices and all that stuff that will come out later on in the gag reel and everything else.
I actually chose to play Renfield because I knew that he hasn't been portrayed correctly in film specifically, and that's where people know him from. One thing about Renfield that a lot of people don't understand is that he is extremely noble at the end. He tries to save Mina. So I knew I would have to go through a lot of different emotions, and I would have to do them very, very quickly. He can cry and he can laugh all in the same line. He can get murderous with Dr. Seward and at the same time still consider him one of his best friends. He calls them his friends. And at the end of the book, he actually is sane. He actually tries to assault Dracula, and he is subsequently killed for it. But the voice itself, I took a lot of different pieces from different media. He can get really, really quiet. He can say something to the effect of, "Dear Master, will you, in your distribution of good things..." And he can get really low and really quiet and personal. But at the same moment, he can just go... And his laugh can be like a musical instrument. He can go and... And at the same time, he can go... So it's hard, and you have to really work on... It's really like a musical instrument. And it's about feeling, and he can be portrayed a lot of different ways. You can play him low, you can play him high. I chose to play him both because he's an extremely complex character. He's almost as complex as Harker, but he's locked in this little box, and he doesn't have anywhere to go, and he thinks he's a god, and sometimes he thinks himself a prince, and sometimes he thinks he's a slave. But once he gets locked on to, okay, Dracula's polluting Mina, and I have to do something about it. I think that's, it was really rewarding to play someone who can pull themselves out of such hatred, because everyone likes to listen to Renfield, but if you were actually around him, you wouldn't be comfortable. You wouldn't be comfortable in the same building. I mean, think about Dr. Seward. He's sleeping at night. He's recording his phonograph with that thing yelling at him in the background. It'd be really, really disturbing, and to think that he can come so far. It's like Jonathan Harker and all the other characters. They have such depth of them that it was really fulfilling to do that role. It really was.
That was our producer Adam Stover talking about our production, as well as my response to queries about Renfield. Those clips are both from Dragon's Breath, The Voices of Dracula, a small documentary that we did to be released in conjunction with our project. Renfield was really a delight to play him because I had such freedom. It's very, very rare for anyone to have such freedom with a performance that whatever you do could be correct. I could play him as very calm. I could play him as screaming, laughing, insane. I could play him sing-song. I could have played him any way I wanted. And to be able to do him correctly I chose to play him all of the above because it is a depiction of mental illness. It's an extremely touching story. A lot of people don't understand how important Renfield is, not only to the book, but of the history of literature in general. He's a super intelligent, extremely sensitive, raving madman who had to be played with a lot of care. But once you realize the freedom that you have, it was so fun. I was very fortunate to have that opportunity. I'm glad to have done it, and I'd absolutely do it again. It's the most fun I've ever had in media. Being in that booth and doing that crazy man. Absolutely the most fun I've ever had. Alright folks, here it is. This is our subcast called Casting Dread, the Penny Dreadful Show. The first episode of the second season was entitled Fresh Hell. It was directed by James Hawes and written by the man himself, John Logan. It's out on YouTube. There is no reason why I should read it in my very sexy voice unless you would want me to, and if so, go ahead and do the inbox, and we will revert back to the panty-dropping tones of my voice. In any case, I was enthralled with the episode. There were some predictions that seemed to have come true, and if you've listened to the previous episode, you know to what I'm referring. The new antagonists showed up with a vengeance. Evelyn Poole / Madame Kali is a more than proper antagonist for Vanessa, Sir Malcolm, and the rest. I'm glad to see that Ethan is growing as a character. I'm glad to see that the aftershocks of Mina's death still resonate with Sir Malcolm. And I'm also was really happy to see what happened with his family. Sir Malcolm can close the book on his old family and proceed with the new one. There are a lot of interesting twists. I love what they're doing with Caliban. Dorian Gray is absent, and I'm not sure what his role is. That is really my one criticism. I'm not sure what he is besides eye candy. And understandably, there has to be some eye candy for the show, but it's already been there. I don't know what he's doing, and I don't know what his purpose is. Yes, he's a tortured soul, yes, he lives forever, and yes, he probably has some connection to Lucifer / Dracula / Amon-Ra, but it seems like a bit of a wasted character. I'm not sure where it can go. There's already immortality being discussed on multiple levels. I'm sure Logan has a plan, but as of this moment, I just don't see it. I think it's a bit of a waste. Sembeni is given more to do, and that is slowly unfurling, and it's actually done well. I had my problems with it in season 1, but it actually gives the show a lot more depth in releasing his story slowly and methodically, rather than quickly. It's still about Vanessa, and it should be. The way that the antagonists come out, the way they're revealed, the violence, the extent they go after Vanessa immediately, and it's going to be a problem all season long. There's a very powerful sequence of prayer versus ritual, which happens near the end of the episode. There's also something very strange, and I don't know how to feel about it. As you've guessed previously, Victor Frankenstein was in the act of making a, quote, bride of Frankenstein, even though that's not the correct term. A, quote, bride of Frankenstein from the corpse of Brona Croft. And as such, he is fulfilling Caliban's expectation. It took a turn into really strange territory when the body was lying underwater and he began to touch her breasts. It shows a little bit of necrophilia, and at first impulse were thought it to be a bit gross. But think about Victor Frankenstein for a moment. What has he gone through in this whole wonderful, beautiful mess that is Penny Dreadful? He lost Proteus. He had him for a day, and then lost him. You had Professor Van Helsing for just a little bit more time than that, and he lost him. Now he's got Caliban. It seems as if Victor Frankenstein's success is in death. He lost his mother when he was a child. He lost his dog when he was a child. In death is where Victor Frankenstein's knowledge truly lies. And if his knowledge truly lies there, and his obsession truly lies there, on some level it makes quite a bit of sense that he would be attracted to a corpse. I don't know how to feel about it because it is quite creepy. In fact, one of the creepiest scenes that I've ever seen, but that was its purpose. But I don't know how to say this, but there's something kind of pitiful and sweet underneath that surface. It's like a very sad play. And Brona, spoiler alert, look, if you haven't watched the episode, do it right now. Pause this podcast and go watch the freaking episode. You have no excuse. So I'm going to spoil you right now. Brona was resurrected. That is the last part of the episode. And it seems there's going to be a bit of a love triangle going on. But also Caliban has a little bit of an out. If you've noticed the blind girl in Caliban's new position, that was actually very sweet and tender. I'm glad to see that they're making kindness and friendship a big deal on this show despite all the sex and the violence. It's going to be a very interesting romantic twist, and it's not going to be your usual love story. It's not the garbage of Twilight or romance novels. This is very serious business about damaged people. Another thing I liked about the show was I thought the pace was excellent, and it's hard to get pacing right, especially when going from one season to another. It was cut so well. It was so fresh in its interpretations. It brought the real threat of these women. It is a real girl power show, from the characters of Vanessa to the witches themselves, and these are nasty, nasty witches. There's a show about witches called Salem. Comes on WGN. It's okay. I would consider it above average watch. My wife really likes it, but these witches make those girls and guys look like toys. These are very violent, meaningful opponents, and I'm glad that they upped their game. But I do have some worries about that. As we've discussed on the last episode, the big bad, the great evil of this show is Dracula / the devil / Amon-Ra, the same entity, and we presented evidence to such previously. Once you play that card, once you play the Dracula card, you can't go back. Otherwise, it's going to weaken the show. The reason why Penny Dreadful is so good is because it's building. The reason why shows like Hannibal and Breaking Bad and Sherlock are so successful is because they keep upping their game. Sherlock, quote, got rid of Moriarty only to probably bring him back. Breaking Bad, the antagonists only got bigger. I'm going to give you an example of a show that brought in the big antagonist way too early and it lost it. And that show, folks, is Supernatural. And yes, it still has high ratings, but the storytelling, once they brought Satan out, once they played that card, what else can you face that's bigger than the devil? And there's a parallel there to Penny Dreadful. Dracula and the devil are the same. And once you pull that card, you're not going to go back. And when they pull that card, they have to end the show after Dracula is dispatched. Or he could win, more interestingly enough. And in fact, it would be a very interesting interpretation if Dracula does win, because he's been killed 500 different ways, and really, how can you beat the devil? Because Dracula at his core is the most diabolical, vile, and evil character in the history of literature. He is immortal. He commands the storms. He has all kinds of beautiful hoes, although he himself is a very big hoe. And he's a raping, murdering criminal. But he's brilliant, and he has all these powers. So once you pull that card, once Penny Dreadful reveals Dracula, And once that story is played out, there's nothing else they can do. You can't bring in the Phantom of the Opera, or the Invisible Man, or the Creature from the Black Lagoon, or Carmilla, or anything else. You can't do it because it's going to be weak. Even Ethan Chandler, as strong as the performance is, you're not going to be able to match up to Dracula. And that's my worry for Penny Dreadful. And yes, perhaps I'm overthinking it a bit, but I am concerned about the health of the show in the future. Right now, it's on a roller coaster. It's this massive train that can't be stopped, and its quality, and it's just getting better. But that's something to keep tabs on in the future. Once Dracula is revealed, what are you going to do after that? And hopefully they won't do anything after that. I hope they end the show there. Don't drag it out like stupid shows on the CW. And I don't think they will. Showtime has an excellent record, and I love John Logan and what he's doing. As for Fresh Hell itself, it's been said. It's a fantastic episode. It's the best episode that's been there so far. Its pacing is wonderful. The performances are dynamic. The shots are meaningful. The composition is diverse, complex, and totally intoxicating. If you haven't watched this episode, or even worse yet, you haven't watched Penny Dreadful at all, you don't have a pulse, and I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't know what I can do besides break you down emotionally, and break you down mentally, and wear down the internet until you fall under Penny Dreadful's wonderful spell. Alright folks, we're back at the Dracula Podcast. Hope you enjoyed our subcast, Casting Dread, the Penny Dreadful Show. And just a note before we move on. The second episode of Penny Dreadful is entitled Verbus Diablo. It will take place on May the 10th, so mark your calendars at 10 p.m., followed by the third episode, Nightcomers, and the date and time is yet to be confirmed, but I'm fairly sure it will take place on May the 17th. Again, keep in touch with this podcast for more information. We're going to be back with John Johnson extremely soon so we can touch on some more media reviews for you. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. But most of all, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining in. We appreciate you. You're the sexiest show on the internet. It's only getting better, and it's all because of you. That's no joke. But moreover, kids, to you and yours, have an excellent day.